Welcome, dear listener, to Jade Fox Tales, where ancient myths become the dreams into which you softly descend. I am most grateful for your company this evening and for the quiet moment you have chosen to spend here. Tonight, we journey to the gentle shores of old Korea, where the sea moves softly beneath the moon, and where a humble fisherman once cast his nets into quiet waters. It is a tale of a small kindness freely given, and of the unexpected path it set in motion. For the sea, as the old stories often remind us, does not forget. What is offered to it, whether care or thoughtlessness, has a curious way of returning, though not always in the form one might expect. And so, this is a story of quiet wonder, of hidden realms beneath the surface, and of the subtle ways in which time and fate may shift, almost unnoticed, around a single moment. You need not follow each word too closely. Should your thoughts begin to wander, you may let them do so. And if sleep should find you before the tale has reached its end, you may welcome it without concern. The story will continue, whether heard or not, just as the tide continues its slow and patient turning. Before we begin, however, let us allow the day to fall gently away, not by effort, but simply by no longer holding on to it. Take a slow breath in and let it go again unhurried. There is no need to shape the breath, nor to guide it too carefully, only to notice that it moves, and that with each passing moment the body grows a little more at ease. The world beyond this moment may wait. For now, there is nowhere you must be, and nothing that requires your attention. Only this quiet interval and the soft unfolding of a tale. You may feel a certain stillness begin to settle, a quiet heaviness perhaps, or simply the sense that the day has loosened its hold. Let that be enough. For stories such as these are not told in haste. They move gently, like water across stone, finding their way in their own time. And tonight, one such story waits for us. A simple fisherman, a creature of the sea, and a meeting that will carry him far beyond the world he knows. So now, dear listener, let the breath remain soft. Let the body rest where it lies, and allow yourself to drift, if you wish, as we begin. Along the eastern coast of what is known as Korea, where pine trees lean thoughtfully towards the sea, and the tides speak in measured whispers upon the sand, there lived a fisherman of modest means and unassuming spirit. His dwelling was humble, a small thatched house perched above the curve of a crescent bay. Each morning before dawn he would rise, bow lightly towards the horizon in silent gratitude, and push his narrow boat into the waiting waters. He was neither renowned for wealth nor ambition, yet among the villagers he was known for something rare, a disposition of kindness that seemed woven into the very fabric of his being. On a morning veiled in silver mist, where the sea lay smooth as polished jade, the fisherman cast his net as he had done countless times before. The rope slipped through his fingers with practiced ease as he waited patiently, listening to the rhythm of the waves against the hull. When at last he drew the net upward, he found not fish within its woven threads, but a small turtle, no larger than a raspberry, its shell patterned in delicate shades of moss and amber. The creature struggled faintly, its limbs entangled. The fisherman paused. He knew well that turtles could fetch a modest price in the village market. His purse was thin. The previous winter had been unkind. Yet, as he looked into the creature's dark, unblinking eyes, he felt an unfamiliar hesitation. "There is no honor," he murmured softly, "in profiting from helplessness." With careful hands, he freed the turtle from the net and placed it upon the surface of the sea. For a moment, the creature floated motionless. Then, with a gentle dip of its head, whether of instinct or gratitude, none could say, it disappeared beneath the water, leaving only widening ripples behind. The fisherman watched until the surface stilled once more. He returned home that day with fewer fish than hoped. Yet a curious lightness accompanied him, as though some unseen ballast had been preserved. Days passed, the tide shifted, the moon waxed and waned. Then, on an evening when the sky burned in hues of crimson and gold, and the fisherman lingered upon the shore to mend his nets, a voice, soft yet distinct, carried across the water, "Good fisherman." He lifted his head. There, rising gently from the quiet sea, was a turtle, no longer small, but great in size and luminous in bearing. Its shell shimmered faintly in the dying light, and its eyes held an intelligence that stirred both wonder and awe. The fisherman, though startled, felt no fear. For kindness, once given freely, seldom returns as harm. And thus began a journey that would lead him beyond the familiar shore, into realms unseen by mortal eyes, a place where gratitude is not forgotten, and where the quiet deeds of humble souls are remembered beneath the endless tide. The fisherman remained motionless upon the shore. The evening wind stirred faintly at his sleeves, as the great turtle regarded him with eyes of tranquil knowing. "Be not afraid," the creature said, its voice neither loud nor startling, but calm as the tide at moonrise. "I am the one whom you released from your net when the morning was veiled in mist. Your kindness was neither small nor forgotten." The fisherman bowed low, for though astonishment pressed upon him, courtesy prevailed. "If I acted kindly," he replied with humble sincerity, "it was only because I could not do otherwise." The turtle inclined its noble head. "There are many," it answered gently, "who would have chosen differently." The sea shimmered with reflected twilight, and after a moment's stillness, the turtle spoke again. "Come with me. There is one who desires to express gratitude beyond the measure of words." The fisherman hesitated. He had never ventured far beyond the sight of land. The sea, though familiar, held mysteries in its depths that stirred both reverence and caution within his heart. Yet the memory of the turtle's small, helpless form in his net returned to him, and he felt that trust, once extended, ought not to be withdrawn. "How shall I follow you?" he asked. "Climb upon my back," the turtle replied. Though the suggestion seemed beyond reason, the fisherman perceived no malice in the creature's bearing. With deliberate care, he stepped into the shallow water and mounted the broad gleaming shell. At once the sea closed gently around him, yet he did not choke nor struggle. Instead, he found himself enveloped in a cool clarity, as though the waters had parted in courtesy. Light filtered down in wavering columns, illumining coral gardens and swaying forests of kelp. They descended, not with alarming speed, but with measured grace. Before long, a sight unfolded that no earthly eye would easily forget. Rising from the ocean floor stood a palace of luminous splendor, its arches curved like waves frozen in motion. Its pillars shimmered with hues of pearl and jade. Lanterns fashioned of translucent shells, glowing softly with a pale and tranquil radiance. The architecture bore resemblance to the graceful forms of Korean halls, yet seemed refined beyond mortal craftsmanship. Delicate eaves, flowing lines, and doors adorned with patterns reminiscent of the clouds that diffed across mountain temples. The fisherman, overcome with awe, dismounted upon a path of smooth stone that gleamed faintly beneath his feet. Attendants approached, not man, nor holy creatures of the sea, but beings of serene countenance and gentle movement. They bowed respectfully. "You are welcome," one spoke, "in the court of the Sea King." The fisherman's breath slowed, though his heart beat with astonished wonder. He was led into a grand hall, whose ceiling arched like the inside of a vast shell. At its far end sat a dignified presence upon a throne, carved of coral and mother of pearl. The Dragon King of the Eastern Sea, sovereign of the waters. The Sea King regarded him with solemn kindness. "You have shown mercy where profit might have guided you," the king said. "In sparing one life, you honored the balance of all. Such acts are not lost in the turning of tides." The fisherman knelt deeply. "I did only what my conscience allowed," he answered. "And that," the Sea King replied, "is no small thing." Music began softly. Tones like distant chimes carried through water. Dancers moved with fluid grace, their garments flowing as though woven of current and foam. Dishes of unfamiliar delicacies were placed before the fisherman, fruits that shimmered like polished stone, teas fragrant beyond an earthly brew. Days seemed to pass in serene delight. He walked gardens where sea flowers bloomed in colors unseen by human eyes. He listened to stories told by ancient turtles who had witnessed the rise and fall of dynasties upon the land above. He rested beneath domes where light refracted into 1,000 gentle hues, and yet no comfort surrounded him. A faint longing stirred within his breast. He thought of the crescent bay, of pine trees bending towards the sea, of his small thatched home, and the simple rhythm of casting nets at dawn. One evening, as he stood beside a willow through which silver currents streamed like drifting zinc, the great turtle joined him. "You are troubled," it observed. "I am grateful beyond measure," the fisherman said softly. "Yet I begin to wonder how long I have been absent. The world above is fragile, nets must be mended, seasons turn." The turtle regarded him with thoughtful silence. "In the realm of the sea," it said at length, "time moves differently than upon the shore." The fisherman felt a subtle unease. "How differently?" he asked. The turtle did not answer immediately. Instead, it turned its gaze towards the distant surface, where faint light shimmered far above. "If you wish to return," it said gently, "you shall be borne safely home. But know this: gratitude binds us in memory, not in possession. What is given freely must remain free." The fisherman bowed. "I desire no treasure," he said, "only to see once more the shore from which I came." The turtle inclines its head. "So it shall be." Yet, as they ascended once more through the quiet columns of light, the fisherman could not silence the faint tremor of uncertainty that had taken root within him. For though kindness had opened the gates of wonder, he sensed that every gift, however luminous, carries within it a lesson yet to unfold. The ascent was quieter than the descent. The fisherman, seated once more upon the broad and steady shell of the great turtle, felt the cool waters thin about him as they rose through wavering corridors of light. The palace of coral and pearl diminished beneath them, its luminous arches fading into blue shadow, until at last it was no more than a glimmer, like memory itself. Neither spoke. There are moments in which silence is the truest companion to thought, At length, the surface of the sea appeared above them, trembling with daylight. The turtle broke through gently, and the fisherman felt once more the kiss of wind upon his face and the salt-sweet breath of open air. Before them lay the familiar curve of a crescent bay, or so he believed. The turtle glided towards the shallows and lowered itself so that the fisherman might step safely onto the sand. He did so with careful gratitude, turning immediately to bow. "My thanks," he said earnestly. "Whatever days have passed beneath the sea, I shall remember them as a dream of extraordinary kindness." The turtle regarded him with an expression both tender and solemn. "Remember, good fisherman," it said quietly, "that not all currents flow alike. What seems but a brief tide below may be a turning of seasons above." A faint chill stirred within him. Before he could inquire further, the turtle dipped beneath the surface once more and was gone, leaving only widening ripples that soon surrendered to stillness. The fisherman turned towards the village path. At once, an unfamiliar disquiet touched his heart. The pines that at once leaned in youthful vigor now stood broader and more gnarled. The footpath bore roots deeper than he remembered. Even the stones along the shoreline seemed worn by years of tide beyond his reckoning. He walked slowly where his thatched cottage had stood upon the rise. There was now a structure of different make, sturdier, vaulted, with tiles where straw had once rested. Children played nearby. No number of faces he recognized. Summoning courage, he approached an elder who sat mending a basket. "Good sir," the fisherman began with respectful inclination, "may I inquire after the dwelling that once stood here? It belonged to a fisherman of modest means." The elder looked up, studying him with mild perplexity. "That house," he replied, "it belonged to a man spoken of in old tales, a fisherman who vanished long ago. Some say he drowned, others whisper of spirits of the sea." A tremor passed through the fisherman. "How long ago?" he asked, though dread had already begun its quiet work within him. The elder considered. "My grandfather told me the story when I was but a boy, and he had heard it from his own grandfather." The world seemed to tilt. The fisherman's breath slowed to a hollow quiet. The sky, the sea, the cry of distant gulls, all remained unchanged, yet nothing was as it had been. He wandered to the edge of the village, where an ancient pine cast long shadows across the earth. There, seated upon a stone, warmed by afternoon sun, he allowed memory to settle upon him. The palace beneath the waves, the music like distant chimes, the gardens of coral bloom. Had he tarried but days, or had years flowed past him like unseen currents? In the realm of the sea, time had moved with gentle grace, unmeasured by harvest or snowfall. Yet upon the shore, generations had quietly turned. A sorrow neither sharp nor bitter entered his heart, rather a solemn recognition of truth long known, yet seldom felt so deeply. All this change, home fades, faces pass, even the steadfast pines bow before the earth unseen. As dusk approached, the fisherman walked once more to the water's edge. He knelt and gazed into the shifting tide. "I sought only to return," he murmured softly. Yet return itself is a fleeting illusion. The sea answered with patient rhythm, and in its steady breathing he discerned neither cruelty nor favor, only the impartial movement of existence. He recalled then the words of the turtle. Gratitude binds us in memory, not in possession. He possessed nothing now of his former life, no cottage, no kin, no familiar voice to greet him at dusk. Yet he possessed still the memory of kindness given freely, and perhaps he reflected that alone endures beyond the turning of years. Night descended gently upon the bay. Lanterns flickered in windows that were strange to him, yet warm all the same. The fisherman remained seated by the water long after darkness settled. At last, when the moon cast a pale path across the sea, a faint ripple disturbed its silver reflection. The great turtle emerged once more, silent and luminous. "You have seen," it said softly. "I have seen," the fisherman replied. There was no accusation in his voice, only understanding. "The currents of time cannot be reversed," the turtle continued, "but neither is life confined to one shore alone." The fisherman regarded the horizon, endless, patient, shimmering beneath moonlight. what remains for one who belongs neither to the past nor the present? He asked. The turtle's eye held a depth like starlit waters. Peace, it answered, and the freedom that comes when attachment loosens its hold. The fisherman closed his eyes briefly, breathing in the salt air. The ache with him did not vanish, yet it softened, like waves smoothing sharp stones. When he opened his eyes once more, the sea seemed less vast, the night less cold. He rose slowly to his feet. "I will walk a while," he said, "and see what kindness may yet be given." The turtle inclines its head, and wherever compassion is chosen with right, there the tide remains gentle. The fisherman watched as a luminous shell sank beneath the waters once more. He did not call after it, for he understood that gratitude, once fulfilled, need not bind itself again. Behind him, the village settled into slumber. Before him, the sea stretched vast and unknowable, and within him, though time had taken what once was his, there remained a quiet and enduring truth, that no act of kindness is ever lost, though the world itself may change beyond recognition. The night deepened, and with it came a serenity unlike any the fisherman had known before. He did not return to the place where his cottage had once stood, nor did he seek to explain himself further to the villagers, for he perceived that some truths are too delicate to press upon mortal understanding. Instead, he walked along the curve of the bay until he reached a quiet stretch of shore where the pines grew sparse and the sand lay smooth and undisturbed. There he made his rest. The moon traced a silver path upon the water, and the tide moved in its eternal rhythm, neither hurried nor delayed by the concerns of men. In the days that followed, the fisherman fashioned for himself a modest shelter near the water's edge. The villagers, observing his gentle demeanor and industrious habits, offered him rice and tools without hesitation. Though they knew him only as a solitary man of unknown origin, they found comfort in his calm presence. He asked for little. He mended nets for those who struggled. He guided young boys in the art of casting lines. He spoke rarely of his past, and when he did, it was not of palaces beneath the sea, but of gratitude, patience, and the necessity of letting go. For he had come to understand that what had been granted to him beneath the waves was not meant to bind him in longing, but to free him from the fear of change. Seasons turned. Spring brought blossoms that drifted like pale snow upon the breeze. Summer warmed the shadows where children played. Autumn laid a tapestry of emerald needles beneath the pines. Winter stilled the shore in quiet contemplation. And through each passing cycle, the fisherman felt no bitterness towards the years that had slipped from him. Time, he had learned, is neither adversary nor ally. It is simply the great tide that carries all things forward. One evening, many years later, though he scarcely counted them, the fisherman sat once more upon the sand as dusk descended in hues of lavender and rose. His hair had silvered, his hands bore the mark of long labor, yet his gaze remained steady, tranquil as the horizon itself. A faint ripple disturbed the calm surface of the sea. It did not startle. The great turtle emerged once more, its shell luminous in the fading light. "You have lived well," the turtle said, its voice softer than the evening wind. The fisherman smiled gently. "I have lived," he replied, "and I have given what kindness I could." The turtle drew near. "The Sea King remembers," it said. "The tides remember. No generous act vanishes into emptiness." The fisherman regarded the creature without longing. "Once," he said thoughtfully, "I believed that wonder lay in palaces of pearl and gardens of coral. Yet I've come to see that the greater marvel is found in each passing day, in breath, in labor, in simple companionship." The turtle inclined its noble head. "Then you have learned what few discern." Silence settled between them, not heavy, but whole. At length the turtle spoke again. "The currents are calm tonight. If you desire it, you may return with me, not to dwell as before, but to rest where time does not weigh upon the heart." The fisherman turned his gaze to the village lights flickering faintly in the distance. He thought of the boys he had taught, now grown, of nets mended and storms weathered, of mornings when mist rose softly from the sea. He felt no regret, only completion. He rose slowly to his feet and stepped towards the water. "Kindness brought me to your realm once," he said quietly. "Peace guides me now." With steady movement, he mounted the turtle's broad shell. The sea welcomed them without resistance, parting in gentle clarity as it had long ago. Yet his descent wasn't like the first. There was no astonishment, no eager wonder, only a quiet surrender to the rhythm of things beyond measure. Above, the moon traced its silver path once more across the water. Below, light shimmered in tranquil currents, and upon the shore the tide continued its eternal breathing, advancing, retreating, whispering in ancient hymn. Some say that on certain evenings, when the sea lies smooth as polished glass, a luminous shape may be glimpsed beneath the surface, moving with serene and unhurried grace. Others say that an old fisherman once lived among them, whose wisdom seemed drawn from depths unseen. But the truth of such tales matters little, for what endures is not the marvel of underwater palaces, nor the mystery of vanished years. It is a quiet certainty that kindness, once given freely, returns in forms both seen and unseen, and that though time alters shorelines and names alike, compassion remains the one current that never runs dry. Thus the tide grows still, and thus, dear listener, our story finds a gentle rest, carried softly upon the waters of memory, where all good deeds shimmer faintly, yet forever beneath the moonlit sea.